The Financial Symphony. Helping you compose a more harmonious financial plan and getting your portfolio in tune. So sit back while we strike up the band. The Financial Symphony starts now.
Hello, everybody. This is the Financial Symphony. I'm Mark Killian, your host today, along with some fantastic people from Creative Financial Partners. Joining me today is Tim Croak, a CFP, along with Dan DeVerna of Creative Financial Partners, and the team serve right here in the northwestern Ohio area. You can find them very easily at their office in Perrysburg, but again, they serve all around Toledo and the whole northwestern Ohio area. And if you'd like to reach out to them, it's very, very easy to do. All you have to do is pick up your phone, give them a call at 800-373-9715. That's your number, 800-373-9715, to get in touch with these gentlemen and get yourself on the calendar for a no-cost, no-obligation consultation to come in and sit down and talk specifically about your unique financial situation. And we got a great show lined up for everybody today, so we hope that you'll stick around for all of that. We've got a guest coming on later today. We've got Rob Croak coming in during our community connection. Going to talk about some great stuff there as well. And we also have some insights of the week a little later on in the show, so stick around for all that. But before we get to that, let's get started today, guys, with our bad habits. We've all got them. I know you guys got them. I've got them. And especially when it comes to our financial life, bad habits can get us into some trouble. So let's talk about a few things that you see on a regular basis and some ways to maybe try to avoid those bad habits or break those bad habits, if you will. I know for me personally, I'm bad about ignoring my account statements, and I know that you guys find that a lot with your clients as well, where you get these things in and you just kind of look at them. Maybe you open them, maybe you don't, or you just toss them in a drawer.
Yeah, so there's a time that we actually wouldn't mind you doing that, and that's when the stock market's going down and you're buying things on a monthly basis, and you can feel good about that dollar cost averaging that we talk about a lot. But I'll tell you, we have so many clients that have originally set up like 401k retirement plans, and they've done it years ago. And these automatic systems and programs that are in place now, they automatically put you in just based upon your age oftentimes. And so you don't necessarily want to say that they're going to make the right decision for you, who's an individual person and has your own philosophy, your own ideas of how aggressive or conservative you want to be, just by how old you are. So I've got 70-year-old clients that invest like they're 30, and I've got 30-year-olds that invest like they're 70, and it's based upon their philosophy and their thoughts and their ideas. So ignoring statements and just defaulting and saying, hey, we're just going to let them put us where they think we should go, I really don't like that idea.
Yeah, and Dan and I are big advocates on awareness, that you want to be knowledgeable about what you're in and what the philosophy is behind it. Your account statements are a good way to follow that, and some people are going to go down either extreme of the path, where they're going to read every account statement and obsess over it, or they're going to ignore them completely, and they are going to set them on a drawer and never look at them. And neither way is really good. You really want to at least be aware of what you're in. If questions or concerns come up, to be able to address those as they come up is a lot more effective.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And we're talking about bad habits and maybe how some consequences of these bad habits and maybe how to break them or at least be aware of them. And guys, this one I'm sure is something that's happening a lot lately, is being addicted to the rising stock market. I mean, it's been on a tear for a while, right?
It has been. And, the stock market is dominated in the short run by emotional factors as opposed to financial or business or economic type factors, which are influential in the long run. But in the short run, we've got a lot of emotional things that are geared towards either greed or fear. And a lot of that depends on what's happening politically and economically and also with the market right now. But everybody is taking a look at their account balances right now that are going through the roof. And this is when that greed comes out, and where people want to buy in because of everything that they're missing by not being in. And it wasn't too long ago that they were pulling out because of the fear factors, and they were afraid of it going down. And neither extreme is really good. You don't want to be addicted to those emotional factors, be they fear or greed.
Yeah, and if you look at the numbers say that the stock market is averaging close to double digits, but the average investor is averaging closer to 3 or 4%. So it's because of that emotional ride and those, kind of those quick movements of thinking we're going to outsmart the market, we're going to invest at the right time, and we're actually doing almost exactly the opposite of that.
Yeah, and there's so much, like you said, Tim, there's so much greed going on that it's hard to turn away. It's a bad habit. We want to see it go up and up and up, and everybody likes that. But you do have to be cautious and make sure that you are, in the right investments at the right time and not letting greed get the better of you. And we're talking about bad habits here on the Financial Symphony with the guys from Creative Financial Partners, Tim and Dan here. And Dan, let me ask you on this one, and I know I'm guilty of this as well, and my wife is really bad about this, and that's procrastination. And procrastinating on your financial decisions that you have to make can definitely be a bad habit you need to work on.
It's a really bad habit. I mean, we've had so many people that really, they miss opportunities, and they'll say, well, I'm going to think about this. Let me think about this. And ultimately, many times they never make a decision because they just are so fearful of making the wrong decision. And many times I would say, by the time that an idea gets to my desk or the table that I work at most of the time, I say it's a really good idea. Now, not every client is going to think that every one of my ideas is a good one, and they shouldn't. And I tell them that. I say there's going to be, if I present you with 3 ideas, I think that there's one you're going to love, there's one you're going to, well, I don't know, maybe at some point, and then there's likely one that you go, what the heck was he thinking showing me that? That's not me at all. And our job is ideas. So I want constantly for us to be sharing new ideas and philosophies and being able to make sure we're on the same page with the client. But oftentimes we're the conduit for clients to be able to get all this information. So I really like having those discussions to come to those decisions. And it's really tough when somebody is so hesitant to make those decisions ultimately.
Yeah, I think a lot of our job is as psychologists more than as financial advisors, because we deal with so much of the human emotion and everything. And so a big part of that effort for us is to bring people down a pathway and make sure that all of the issues that they're facing are brought to their attention with some judgment and some options. But a lot of it is not even to have them say yes, but it's just to have them make a decision and to kind of hold their feet to the fire to that decision-making process. A lot of times we don't care if the answer is yes or no, but there's just certain issues that you've got to face at certain points in your life, and putting it off just really doesn't do you any good.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point that you're leading me right to our next one here on our bad habits, Tim. And that's pretending like something's not going to happen to us, right? We all kind of do that in various parts of our life, but the mortality rate for humans is 100%, right? Nobody's getting out of this thing. And,
right.
And so a lot of times we pretend that, well, I'm not going to die, or we pretend I'm not going to be in a nursing home, or my spouse won't. And those are things you've got to deal with and at least have a plan for.
Yeah, you really do. And I'm a little bit older than Dan, so there's a lot of my peers that are facing this right now, especially with life insurance and long-term care. And, when you have people that love you and care for you, these are key type of planning issues, and you really need to make some decisions on it, because to decide, you're actually making a decision. And by putting it off too long, oftentimes by the time you actually want to get the life insurance policy you need or the long-term care coverage that you need, it's too late. Something prevents you. Either the premiums are higher because you waited too long and you're older, or you've got some health issues that will prevent you from getting those type of things. And again, to be able to get those issues presented to you in an intelligent and comprehensive way so you can make quality decisions and then move on with your life is what our goal is.
Yeah, and the truth is that the math is telling us now that, out of Tim and I, one of the two of us likely is going to need that kind of care. And so, I think it's Tim and Tim thinks it's me, but, the truth is that actually the average is more than 1 out of 2 of us. And so we have to face those things. And that is one of the biggest kind of things that are left undone. So I have so many clients that come to us from maybe like a brokerage house or stockbroker or something, and they come in and I say, what's the contingency plan for this, or this? And they haven't really thought of those things because they've been investing in their 401k and they have some neat investments this way or that, but some of these other things that are the things that you have to factor in, all the what ifs. Those are the things that we take, when we take that financial junk drawer and we kind of organize it, and we also go through our money map process and we walk people through covering all these what ifs so that they know that all of the things that could potentially happen are accounted for in one way, shape, or form in that plan.
Well, guys, if folks are sitting out there listening right now and they're like, I've got these bad habits or I've got other bad habits financially that I want to address, and they want to get that money map process, what does that look like for folks?
So the process for us it's a very casual process. So you call in and we will give you a call back early in the week, and we will make sure that we're setting up a time that's convenient for both of us. We'll have you come into the office. You can kind of check us out. We've got a 5,000 square foot building that at one time, and Tim and I were both here 12 years ago, but there was just 4 of us. And now there's 20 some advisors that work here. We've got 30 some people that work in our building here in Perrysburg. And we come in, we have a very casual conversation, and it's really just an introduction of our philosophy. We like to make sure that everybody's on the same page and see if it fits and see if it feels right. And so we've had so many people we've been able to help in Northwest Ohio. And with our laid back, very casual, independent philosophy, it's been a good fit for this area.
And, our service for our clients is very comprehensive because we deal with every financial issue that there is out there. And I tell you what, I think we've gotten to the point where we really have got a great advising team, and we are a tremendous value to the clients that we serve. But if you want to be involved in that kind of conversation, Dan and I are going to keep our schedules open for the next couple weeks. But you need to get on the phone right now and call for an appointment to come in, and we won't charge you anything. I promise you, you will not consider it time wasted, and you will learn some things in that process. But, it's time for you not to be the procrastinator right now. So we need you to get on the phone, give us a call. Dan and I will make sure that we take the time in the next couple weeks to meet with you and hear you out. And I promise you, you'll be able to get great advice as you walk out the door.
All right, folks. Well, here's your number to take them up on this great offer. It's 800-373-9715. That's 800-373-9715. This is a great opportunity to just make sure you're on the right track, to get that financial junk drawer cleaned out, as Dan mentioned, with the team at Creative Financial Partners. 800-373-9715. Come in, sit down, have a cup of coffee, and talk about your unique, specific situation and get that comprehensive financial review, completely complimentary, no obligation. 800-373-9715 to take advantage of this great offer from Tim and Dan at Creative Financial Partners. All right, folks, stick around. There is more Financial Symphony on the other side. We'll be right back.
It's time to get connected with the musical connection right here on the Financial Symphony.
You're listening to the Financial Symphony. I'm Rod Stutz along with Mark Lloyd, and Mark Lloyd is here to talk about music and money and helping you with your retirement, and he's going to try and tie it all together. He always does that pretty well. And Mark, let's talk about the musical connections of the starving musician or the starving investor. There's some parallels to be drawn here.
Some similarities for sure. I mean, the starving musician, there's a bunch of them out there.
Yeah.
So when you have this dream in life that you want to be a full-time musician or a star one day, I mean, it's like Major League Baseball. It's very, very rare that you get called up to the big leagues.
Exactly.
Well, it's the same thing being a musician. I mean, it's I've got a lot of buddies in our local community who are continuing to play in their 50s and 60s, and they do and that's their love. I mean, their passion. They love doing it. I mean, it's just few and far between, and it's the same thing in the investing world. And another musical connection is that a lot of times you got to take risks. Mm-hmm. In the financial world, we may start out with nothing. We got to build something, just like a musician might have to. But also, sometimes you got to take risks out there.
Basically, what I think is a shame, Mark, we're talking about people who are struggling. There's so many struggling musicians out there who are so incredibly talented and never get a break. Sometimes you have to get a break. And then there are other just megastars who aren't nearly as talented, but just got a good break and got some good marketing. Somebody got behind them, and now they're big stars. And not nearly as talented as the people who are really struggling. It's a hard way to make a living.
It really is, and in the investment world, we talk about having to take risks. Sometimes you need a break, but sometimes we don't get that break, Right. But that doesn't stop us from having to invest, right? So sometimes we have to take a little bit of risk. Now, what are we talking about? When we're younger, it's very, very important that we grow our money. We got to make sure that we grow our money. But, I like taking calculated risks instead of just rolling the dice and gambling and speculating on whether or not that stock or that investment's going to hit. Being more calculated and say, okay, I want to be diversified. I want to have a lot of different holdings inside of there so that I can manage my risk. But I realize risk is what creates growth. And see, in the investment world, we have to take risk in order to grow our money. It's hard to grow money today and not have some risk involved of some sort. Now, there's a lot of different strategies out here that we could grow our money and preserve our money. But when we're younger, it's important to grow that nest egg. And sometimes that takes a little bit of risk. Also, it's very, very important in the music world that we learn from our mistakes. When we know, well, that didn't work, why do that again? Don't try to repeat the same mistakes you made. It's the same thing in the investment world. In the investment world, we want to make sure that we're not going to hit home runs on every investment. We're not going to hit home runs every year in our returns. But the key to this is to have more positive returns than we have negative returns. And the key to this is that when we do have a negative return in the market, that it's very small. See, if you've sat there and looked at study after study after study, I can have a portfolio that has a 5% rate of return, and a portfolio number 2 has a 5% rate of return. But portfolio number 1 could be going all over the place. It could be like what I call the big roller coaster. At the end of the day, we won't have the same amount of money because when you take a dip and it drops 30%, it takes a long time to make that back up.
No kidding.
And there's plenty of folks out here, Ron, that don't have a clue how much risk is in their portfolio. And they just look at, I got to grow the money, and they're just gambling and just, invest and keep investing the same way we have. And there's no monitoring. There's no tracking. There's no analyzing of the risk at all. There's nothing being done, no rebalancing being done. It's strictly just a portfolio of, roll the dice and hope it works out. And that doesn't have to be that way. We literally can have a managed risk portfolio that has very low volatility. Put me on the smaller roller coaster, Mark, or put me on the kiddie ride. We can have that and still grow our money consistently. But how do we do it? We have to have diversification. I call it different buckets of money. We need to have some safe money. We need to have some income-driven money. We need to have some diversified growth money that is more globally invested. And when you put just the right pieces of puzzle together, you can have a portfolio that grows consistently, but at the same time protects us from the downside of the market. And that's just as critical, just as important as growing it. So just like a brand new musician or new musician starting out and got to take some risk, you have to take some in your portfolio, but we can manage the risk and calculate the risk. So how much risk do you have right now in your portfolio? Do you know what that risk is? Do you know the number associated with that? How much volatility you have? What your standard deviation score is? Do you know that answer? You need to know that answer. We may be having some future rate hikes coming up by the feds. All this can affect the market, and all this can affect your portfolio if you don't have it under control. So it's real easy. Give us a call, and we'll be more than happy to run a complimentary stress test on your portfolio and see just how much risk you have. But more importantly, are you getting the reward associated with the risk that you're taking? And I think you need to know that answer, and you can do it by just calling in today. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to custom design an exclusive one-page financial review that will indicate if you're in need of a full-blown financial plan. There is no obligation, no cost for this initial review to all callers who call in the next 15 minutes. This easy-to-understand one-page financial review will help you take the mystery out of financial planning by mapping out for you where you are now and offer suggestions of what you should be doing going forward. We'll also run a fee report to help you untangle what working with your current planner or advisor is actually costing you. By addressing your costs and fees, you will be able to see that by simply protecting your retirement investment and keeping more of your money in your accounts, you could notice your whole attitude towards retirement change for the better. We'll also perform a brief tax analysis to reveal how you could possibly reduce your taxes and increase your cash flow. We'll even create a customized lifetime income plan for you utilizing proven strategies and techniques which could turbocharge your retirement income and take the worry out of living in retirement. In short, we'll help you take the guesswork out of financial planning by helping you determine your retirement income by utilizing a technique we call solving for income. For all callers who call in the next 15 minutes, a comprehensive financial review that we are offering with no obligation. So give us a call right now, 800-373-9715. That's 800-373-9715.
Call now and get the process started for yourself. 800-373-9715. Once again, 800-373-9715.
I know it's only rock and roll and retirement, but I like it. Stay tuned to the Financial Symphony.
Around here, this is the Financial Symphony. We certainly appreciate you listening to the show today. Mark Killian back here alongside Dan and Tim of Creative Financial Partners. And if you'd like to reach out to the guys, it's easy to do. 800-373-9715 to get yourself on the appointment calendar and come in and have a conversation with these fine gentlemen from Creative Financial Partners, serving the Toledo and Northwest Ohio area. And guys, it's time for the request line. This is one of our favorite parts of the show where we get questions from around the area. So we'll just dive right in and see if we can help some folks out with some ideas or some wisdoms or some things to think about as they're thinking about retirement and planning for retirement. Our first question comes in to us from Sam in Maumee, and he says, guys, our company just got bought out, and there are rumors that most of us are going to be offered an early retirement offer. What do these offers normally include, and what should I be doing, if anything, to be prepared?
Well, unfortunately, Sam, there's a lot of people that have been getting these types of questions to us for us to kind of funnel through, and we oftentimes will assess their situation and see if accepting the early retirement package is the right thing to do, or if they need to work a little bit longer. Oftentimes, these will have a lump sum, or they'll pay you out over a period of time. They'll also sometimes include health insurance. There's many variables, and everybody has a little different agenda for what's important to them. But what I think you need to do is get a clear list of all those things that are there, all the things that are available, and then come in with your agenda. Give us a call, and we'd love to sit down and kind of walk through. We actually have kind of a checklist a working list that we work off of for these situations, and we want to make sure as we go through that money map process that we're going down that leg and making sure that that path is clear for you, and that you're making that decision as an educated decision and not just, oh, I think I should, or that you're doing it because somebody that you used to work with thinks it's a good idea, or somebody's telling you it's a great deal. What you want to do is make sure this is the right deal for you and that you're completely educated on that decision.
Yeah, the best advice I can offer is to go into that kind of process already being wealthy and making sure that you've got yourself in really good shape financially, because that way you'll be able to make the decisions that are in your best interest financially, and not that you have to do because of being tied to your purse strings. The more freedom that you've got, the more ability you're going to have to make those great decisions. And if it's the great decision to leave, then you can leave, or if it's not, then you can stay. But to be able to have the money to do whatever is best either way is really the way to set yourself up.
All right. Well, great question, Sam. We certainly appreciate it. If you'd like to reach out to the guys, obviously, to talk more about this in detail, feel free to do so. Just give them a call anytime. You don't have to wait till the end of the show, and that's for anybody out there. Just reach out and call 800-373-9715. That's 800-373-9715. All right, guys, we got a question coming in from Oregon from Cindy, and she says, fellas, I've been trying to pay off my house early so that I don't have a mortgage when I retire later this year. But at this point, it looks like I'll still have payments for another 10 to 12 months after retirement. Should I just keep working until the thing is paid off?
Yeah, Cindy, let me say, first of all, that's really kind of an individual question and issue. 10 to 12 months is just not that big of a deal. And so I am not sure I'd make a retirement decision around it. What I will say, though, is that your home typically is a huge cornerstone of your estate. And it's normally where a lot of people keep their wealth. And it's a great appreciated asset. And there's a lot of ways for you to manage your home equity and the mortgage that's on it for your benefit. And so that is probably worthy of a discussion. And, with a lot of people, we will use that mortgage to do other things. Sometimes we want to look at reverse mortgages so they can get an income stream from the equity in their home. Or a lot of times they also want to look at legacy planning, how they want to leave that house or at least the equity in the house to their family. And so if you want to talk about those kind of issues, we can really offer a lot of insight.
Yeah, I think that the philosophy that Tim hit there is everybody's got just a little different take on this. I mean, that interest that you are paying on that mortgage is deductible. And so it might not be the biggest thing for us to pay it back right away. We will be able to look at that, and as we walk through that money map process, we can tell you what makes the most sense for your unique situation.
Great question, Cindy. Certainly appreciate it. 800-373-9715. That's the number to call to talk to the guys to kind of dive into this further and make sure that you are making the right decision for yourself before you do anything. And, of course, you're listening to the Financial Symphony here with Tim and Dan of Creative Financial Partners. And your number to call is 800-373-9715 to reach out to the guys. And we've got time for just one more, fellas, from Millbury, and this is Greg. And Greg says, guys, I like my financial advisor, but he's really hard to get in touch with. I rarely get phone calls returned, and I wonder if my account is maybe just too small for him to worry about. I have about $350,000 with him, and I believe that most of his accounts and clients are more of the $1 million or more variety. Is this a common problem?
I will give you my take first because I'm really aggressive with this. And if you're not getting a return phone call, I don't care if you have $3 with them. If you're not getting a return phone call, then you need to leave. And I'll tell you, I just personally, it just rankles me. The advisors that say, hey, I'm only going to work with you if you've got $500,000, or $1 million or whatever amount to bring to us. And part of that is, my upbringing was very blue collar, as was Dan's. He's from Pemberville. I'm from Oregon. We come from industrial families. And, we really want to work with the common people, the ones with real everyday problems. We place no value on you based on what kind of money that you've got. We're here to help. And I think it's a huge problem if you've got that kind of money with anyone and they don't think that it's worthy to respond or to reach out to you.
Well, I think we've seen a lot more of this lately with a lot of the bigger brokerage houses, and you've seen it in the news, and many of our new clients have felt it, that they're being ignored, and they're actually, in many situations, they no longer have a financial advisor. They now have a 1-800 number that some of these bigger brokerage firms are not going to service accounts under a certain size. And I'm not going to name any names, but people know it. They've read in the papers, they've heard. And in some situations, they've actually had it happen to them. So if you're one of those people, we would love to be able to have those conversations. As Tim mentioned, I mean, I grew up in Pemberville, Ohio, so we are not fancy people here. And we've always gone with the philosophy that we're here to take care of our community and take care of our people. So although, it's much easier to set up a retirement plan that's foolproof for somebody that's got an awful lot of money, we also know that it's the people like my family that really need everything to go really, really well and have all of the I's dotted and the T's crossed and very little room for error that we help the most many times. So if you'd like to be in a situation where you feel like somebody has your best interest at heart, where you feel like they've put together a plan, a game plan that truly is in your best interest and is truly mapping out all of the factors and all the considerations that you have for your personal situation, rather than just a boilerplate that somebody dropped in your name into, then give us a call. We'd love to sit down with you, have a relaxed conversation, and introduce you to our money map process.
All right, folks, here's your number to call, 800-373-9715. It's 800-373-9715. Great questions this week on the request line. We certainly appreciate those, so just keep them coming at any time. And as the guy said, if you'd like to sit down with someone who's going to be interested in talking to you and learning about your situation, getting to know one another and getting that right fit in place, then reach out to the guys at Creative Financial Partners, 800-373-9715, to get your financial house in order with the team. Come in, sit down, and get that comprehensive financial review, complimentary, no obligation, but you have to take some action. Go ahead and pick up the phone, give them a call, 800-373-9715. Okay, folks, stick around. There's a lot more Financial Symphony to come. We still have our guest in studio to stop by, as well as the insight of the week. We'll be right back in just a moment.
Children who study music tend to have a larger vocabulary and more advanced reading skills than peers. You'll get the same effect when you meet with a local financial maestro. It's an education about the financial world that will enable and equip you to better understand how markets work and how your portfolio can work for you, and how you can retire with more peace of mind than those around you who are using tired, outdated strategies. Get on track to retire with confidence and knowledge. Come visit with your financial advisors in Northwestern Ohio, Dan DeVerna and Tim Croak at Creative Financial Partners. Call 800-373-9715. 800-373-9715.
It's time for a fireside chat as we get to know your local Financial Symphony maestro a bit better.
Well, folks, it's getting to know you time right here on the Financial Symphony. This is that fun part of the show where we step away from the financial chatter for a moment or two and get to know the guys at Creative Financial Partners just a little bit better. And you know, guys, how this goes. Sometimes we ask all kinds of crazy questions. You never know what you're going to get on this segment. And this one's kind of fun, so I'll be curious to see what both Tim and Dan feel about this. Whoever wants to go first, feel free. But if you could read the diary of any one person in history, who would it be?
Well, let me start off. Dan knows where I'm going. We've had the chance to kind of go back and forth on this a little bit, just talking about different personalities in history and who we would like to read the diary of. And the first name I would go to is John F. Kennedy, and I'm a big Kennedy fan anyway. And I've always been a little bit amazed that his family was so wealthy, and being that wealthy, that he chose to go into politics at all and to really embrace a life of service. Even after he had an older brother killed in World War II, and he had a sister who died before he ran for office, and you know, coming from a big family, somewhat controversial even back at the time, and through his political life and his life as president, there was just so many different things that he went through, that he encountered. Some were great, like the space program, and some were very tense, like the Cuban Missile Crisis. He had a little bit of tragedy going on and a little bit of celebration all the time. He had a beautiful young wife and great kids, and was able to build a great staff around him. And to be able to go through his thought process and kind of see on a day-by-day basis what his thoughts were and how he evolved, I think that would be one great read.
Yeah, that's kind of the other end of the spectrum from me. So I was thinking about this and thinking about it. And as far as like the most interesting person to read the diary, I actually thought, and I don't endorse his actions on any level, but I thought Hitler would be an extremely interesting person to have the diary of. And so to try to understand what was in his mind and what the philosophies that he believed in, because you know he was very passionate about it, and where his agenda started and what he had the vision of it looking like at the end and how all of that worked together, I thought that would be extremely interesting. Although for opposite end of the spectrum from Tim's ideas there. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely two polar opposites there, guys.
Yeah, which is pretty typical.
Yeah, that's the way we roll.
Well, you know, and I'm sure that, you know, people could, you know, obviously like you're thinking there, could be like, wow, I can't believe you picked that guy. But, you know, just to kind of find some insights would be interesting, because you just never know. Obviously, people of all walks of life trying to learn what makes them tick is also very interesting as well. So that's our getting to know you for this week. Very interesting thoughts on the diary of anybody from history you could read with Tim and Dan of Creative Financial Partners. And stick around. We're going to get back to the financial talk here in just a moment or two. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Financial Symphony.
It can take a composer weeks, months, or even years to put together their magnum opus. That's because they take the time to find just the right notes, chords, and melodies. And while a great financial plan won't take years to put together, you should take the same pride and attention to make sure it's the perfect plan for you. Come visit with your financial advisors in Northwestern Ohio, Dan DeVerna and Tim Croak at Creative Financial Partners. Call 800-373-9715. 800-373-9715.
Don't you want to see sharp and not be flat in retirement? This is the Financial Symphony.
You're listening to the Financial Symphony. We're moving along nicely today here on the show, and it's time to turn and get our insight of the week from the team at Creative Financial Partners. 800-373-9715. That's your number to call. If you're in the Toledo or Northwest Ohio area, reach out to them, 800-373-9715. And Dan, what is our insight of the week? What are we talking about?
Well, this time of year, we always have a lot of questions about taxes. So I thought I'd kind of quizzed him, having been the one that's been doing this for so much longer than me. I thought I'd ask him kind of, if you were going to say what was one of our most tax-friendly investments, what would you say that would be?
Thank you, Dan. I will just use my massive age and experience to be able to answer this question. One of the key areas that we deal with very actively for tax planning is investments in oil and natural gas limited partnerships. And it's a very popular area, and a lot of people are not aware of it, but the popularity comes from the fact that when you invest in oil and gas partnerships, you get a deduction right off of your income for intangible drilling costs. And it's an allowance that the government gives to give people incentive, investors incentive, to be able to invest in the oil and natural gas industry. And so the fact of the matter is, when people are looking for a tax deduction that is not going to be recaptured, where if you put money into a 401k or IRA, it's a deduction today, but it's taxable to you tomorrow. And so with oil or natural gas, if you can invest in it and it's deductible today, but there's not a recapture. The money is then invested in that oil commodity and the support system, and it will produce from that point on an income for you for as long as that partnership lasts. And so it is great for people that are looking for that kind of a deduction, and also for retirees who have got to take the required minimum distributions that start at age 70 and a half. So at that point, you've got to take money out of your qualified pension and IRA plans, and on the surface of it, pay tax on it. But many investors choose to take that distribution, turn it right around, and put it into these partnerships. So it is basically taxable on one hand, deductible right on the other, and then the money is actually invested, and distributions are created for the investor. So you can tell it is a very popular type of program.
Yeah. So the one question that first comes to mind, we've seen gas prices, below $2. We've seen gas prices above $4. Like, with all that oil price volatility, that's a big question that I'm guessing your investors are asking.
They are, and it's really kind of a double-edged sword, because what you want to realize on one hand is that the United States, with the new technologies that are available, have got a lot more oil being pumped and developed in the United States. We are very close to being a domestic oil consumer. So instead of getting oil from other places, particularly the Mideast and OPEC, we're very close to the point where we can produce all of our own oil and natural gas at this point. That is a huge boom to the U.S. economy. And so that part of it is very good. These new oil fields are being explored and drilled all the time. On the other hand, you're going to see times like we saw last year where the price of oil per barrel absolutely crashed. And there's no doubt that the price of oil is going to affect the value of these partnerships. And so what you want to know, like any investment, this type of thing can have some volatility to it, but you also want to know that to be able to buy into these type of programs when the price is low is very much like being able to buy into the stock market after the crash of 2008 when the stock market was at 6,500 points on the Dow. And if you can, turn back the clock and invest in the stock market at that point and take a look at what it is today, then you'll see what I'm talking about. And it's just now we're pretty close to where we were, in those competing businesses, and where oil is today is where the stock market was after 2008's crash.
Awesome. So that's our insight of the week.
All right, good stuff from the guys on the Insight of the Week this week right here on the Financial Symphony. And folks, if you'd like to reach out to Dan and Tim of Creative Financial Partners, it's so easy to do. You just have to pick up your phone and give them a call. 800-373-9715. That's the number to call, 800-373-9715. They've got a convenient office there in Perrysburg to come by and see them, but they serve all of the Toledo and northwestern Ohio area. But you just have to take some action, give them a call, come in, sit down, and have a conversation with these guys. They're a lot of fun, and they definitely know their stuff, so they'll be able to help you get on the right path or the right track towards retirement and get that financial house in order. So give them a call, 800-373-9715. And as always, there is no obligation for this complimentary review to come in and sit down and chat with them. Stick around. There is more Financial Symphony on the other side. We'll be right back with our Community Connection.
Much like the musicians fine-tuning the acoustics of their instruments or analyzing the acoustics of a room before a performance, your financial maestro fine-tuned your financial plan to adapt to the ever-changing financial world. Don't settle for an advisor who offers a sales pitch and calls it a plan. Make sure you hit all the right notes in your financial plan. Come visit with your financial advisors in Northwestern Ohio, Dan DeVerna and Tim Croak at Creative Financial Partners. Call 800-373-9715. 800-373-9715.
The Financial Symphony is reaching its crescendo. Your local financial maestro is coming up next.
Well, we're moving along down the home stretch here on the Financial Symphony, and we certainly appreciate your time today tuning into the show. Been here with Dan DeVerna and Tim Croak of Creative Financial Partners. But now Dan has stepped away, so we certainly appreciate him for the day. And we've got a guest in, and Tim's going to have a little conversation here. But if you'd like to reach out to the guys, make sure that you give them a call at 800-373-9715. That's 800-373-9715 to get in touch with Dan and Tim of Creative Financial Partners and come in and see the office and sit down and have a conversation and work with this great team that they've put together. And with all that said, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Tim, who's going to do a little interview of his own today with our guest. Go ahead, Tim.
Yep. Hey, thank you, Mark. Much appreciated. Hey, we have in the studio today a guy who's actually my cousin, is Rob Croak. I should say the Rob Croak. And most of you have heard about Rob one time or another. He's a little bit of a, somewhat of an enigma and somewhat of a legend in Toledo entrepreneurial circles. One of the questions I get asked the most is, hey, you must be related to Rob Croak. What's he up to? And, Rob, I've heard you in relation to Silly Bands, with Frankie's, with Emosteria, with the Docs. I heard that you were living in Vegas. I heard you were living on the river and that you had movie deals in Los Angeles. What is the Rob Croak story?
I would say the Rob Croak story is whatever people, kind of want it to be, because everyone kind of draws their own conclusions based on what they hear on the street. Right now, as many people know around the area, with me being in the restaurant business for the last 25 years as part of my portfolio, I was looking to start a new brand that I felt could be really good as a franchisable opportunity for people. And so from that, we launched the Max and Melts brand, which we have one over at Westgate on Central Avenue, right across from Costco, and also one right here in Perrysburg, right down the street from your office. And what Max and Melts is a fast casual gourmet mac and cheese and gourmet sandwich shop. And what makes it a little different is we're trying to really go after the really high quality food market, somewhere kind of between a Panera and a Chipotle, where we're using all natural meats and cheeses. So that's one of the things I'm working on, along with, a bevy of other things, from a couple apps that I'm working on, some other products. We have a garden product that's coming out this summer you'll see on QVC and in the Home Depots and Lowe's of the world. It's going to save a lot of back pain on all of us. Something that's really great, and I'm excited to launch. It's called the Mighty Sweep. It'll be out soon. And then just kind of working on several projects. And yes, Frankie's is still around after 76 years in Toledo of providing live music to Toledo. And, I'm still investing in startups, and then also involved in some Bitcoin stuff, some Ethereum, and also on advisory boards of some blockchain companies. And also I have a new product that I'm working with from a European company. It's called Blast Energy Gum. And it's basically, we believe we can change the market how 5 Hour Energy did to Red Bull and Monster Energy drink. And this is in the form of a gum. So it's a small piece of gum, like a chiclet-sized gum, and it gives you 80 milligrams of caffeine in the same delivery as a cup of coffee would. But it's all natural, gluten-free, and kosher, so you don't get all the calories and sugar of coffee. So that's kind of the roundabout of the things I'm working on at this time.
Well, where do you find the time? And you've always been like that. You've always had a million different projects going. Where do you get your time management, but also your inspiration to keep your fingers in so many things?
Well, I think for me, the time is really just about dedicating it and making sure to follow a plan daily. I even have this argument with my wife when she's spending too much time on social media or Instagram, or just wasting time in general. And I think if people really look at it from a time management perspective, you can find the time to follow your dreams, no matter how big they are. So I think a lot of people just really need to focus on the time and what they're doing. And I've always just cut out the things that I felt just didn't deem enough value for me in my time management. And that comes along with me now trying to focus more to make time for my family, to make time for my good friends, because there was a long stretch in my life where I probably wasn't a great friend or a great family member because I was always so busy with my career, and that has changed over the last few years.
Have you had people, come to you and say, hey, do you have an interest in becoming a business coach or a life coach, kind of wanting to be somewhat like you?
Yeah, I get offers all the time for that. And, I do some consulting on a small level, but I really struggle with the so-called gurus and experts out there because, as we all know, with the proliferation of Facebook and Instagram, there's a lot of guys out there that are making a lot of money claiming that they're, gurus and experts in the various fields that are out there. And unfortunately, most of them have never done or executed anything on their own. And if they, what they say, if you can't do, coach. And so I don't ever want to put myself in that predicament where I've turned myself more into a coach in telling people how to do it rather than just executing it myself. So I try to stay away from that. I do it a little bit, but I really want to be able to help people for free rather than selling a $99 package that's a get-rich-quick scheme that's out there. There's 1,000 of them on Facebook every day. So I kind of shy away from that a little bit.
Hey, two quick business questions for you. First of all, I think it's fair to say that you made your name in Toledo in the entertainment business. Back in the Frankie's days, you had some of the best new entertainment acts from all over the country that ventured their way through Toledo because of your connections. So how did that come about? And also, what do you view, how do you evaluate the Toledo entertainment market these days?
That's a good question. Yeah, we've had Frankie's through Frankie's and Main Event and some of the other venues that I've either owned or operated. We definitely have had, many, many big bands from Nirvana to Smashing Pumpkins to Kid Rock to Eminem, all of the above. Anyone you can think of, we've probably done at one of the venues over the years. But as far as the Toledo market right now, when it comes to entertainment and where it's headed and what's going on, it's actually a very strong market. We're doing very well at Frankie's right now with a lot of the local shows and a lot of the same up-and-coming bands, the next, big hits. They're coming through Toledo as they always have. And actually right now we're looking for a new venue, a mid-sized venue for about an 800 to 1,000 capacity room that we desperately need. And we're looking in downtown Toledo for the most part. So if anyone out there has a building they feel that could be a great building for that, let us know. But it's definitely, the market is in very good shape right now and very supportive of live entertainment.
Great. Hey, and finally, if I don't ask you about silly bands, everybody's going to go crazy. Obviously, it was an absolute national craze a couple years ago. People could not get enough of those little weird-shaped bracelets. Every kid in the country, I think, had multiple ones of. How did that come about? Where does that stand today?
Well, like all the products that I develop, a major portion of the products I develop, I should say, they're trending products. And, when silly bands hit big, of course, everyone came out of the woodwork and said, wow, that was really cool how you got lucky with that product. And that's just kind of the nature of the beast. With silly bands, it wasn't an overnight sensation. Being a basketball player, baseball player my whole life, I always seemed to have rubber bands on my wrist. And when I was in China at a product show for another product, one of the reps showed me some small shaped rubber bands. I thought they're really cool, but they didn't really serve a purpose. And I thought if we made them bigger and thicker, people could wear them as bracelets. So I developed them, came up with the name, did the website, put them on my shelves, and they sat there for about a year. And then, with social media, that was right when Facebook was really taking shape and really becoming a phenomenon. We kind of rode the coattails of Facebook a little bit. And the product just really took off regionally. And it was strange when it really got big in the U.S. alone, that it kind of was three-pronged. It was Alabama, Toledo, Ohio area, because that's where we're from and where the company's from, and then also New Jersey. And from there, it just spread. And I remember vividly a guy come into my office one day, and we were getting busier and busier. We went from like 14 employees to like 70 employees in like a 90-day period. And he came into my office, and he was like, God, I could see us selling 1,000 cases of this product a week, at the rate we're going. And I laughed at him, and I said, yeah, that'd be funny, but I doubt if it'll ever happen. And then I remember within probably 3-4 months of that, we were selling 3,000 cases a week worldwide, which accounted to millions of packs of silly bands a week. So it was definitely a crazy ride. And at one point we had over 3,000 employees worldwide working on just that one product. So it was definitely a learning curve and how to scale a business 101, because you can't really Google those types of problems.
And we're running out of time a little bit, but tell me this. We're both big advocates of Toledo, Ohio, and really take a lot of responsibility for helping build things here. You had to have some allure and attraction to getting to the big markets, the New Yorks, LAs, and Vegas, and so forth. What does the future for Rob Croak hold?
Well, right now I spend a lot of my time in Toledo, but also in Los Angeles. I have an office, a shared office with some of my business partners in Los Angeles, and also still do some work in Las Vegas with Blast Energy Gum. So for me, family is here, infrastructure is here, and there's just so many opportunities here. It's hard to just leave Toledo altogether. So Toledo will always be my home, and I'll move around as I need to.
Great. Mark, that is Rob Croak here on the Community Connection.
All right, great interview, guys, and really interesting stuff in there. I remember those silly bands. That was pretty cool. So
remember those? Yeah.
Yeah, I do, absolutely.
Yeah, that was my family did that. Yeah.
That's pretty great. It's pretty great. Well, guys, as always, we love to talk about a lot of things here on the Financial Symphony. And Rob, we certainly appreciate you stopping in today and giving us some insight into the local community. And of course, we always appreciate Dan and Tim's time right here. And folks, if you'd like to come in and sit down and talk with the guys about your specific financial situation, it's easy to do. And of course, we're talking to retirees and pre-retirees because this is a great chance for you to come in and make sure that you're going to be, on the right path as you head towards retirement. You've worked hard your whole life. You want to make sure that you're doing the right thing in the final stretch here. And Creative Financial Partners can certainly help you do that. Take a look at your portfolio, figure out where you're at now, and most importantly, though, how and where you want to get to into your retirement and help you get there. But you have to reach out and start that process. They can do a lot of things for you, but they can't do much if they don't know you and you don't reach out to them. So give them a call, 800-373-9715. It's 800-373-9715 to talk with Tim and Dan of Creative Financial Partners. And Tim, as always, thanks for being on the show, and tell Dan thank you as well. And Rob, appreciate your time today.
Yep.
No problem.
Thanks,
Thank
Mark.
you.
All right, folks, make sure you tune in each and every week for more Financial Symphony with the team from Creative Financial Partners. Bye-bye.
Securities and investment advisory services offered solely through Emeritus Investment Corporation, member FINRA, SIPC.
Representatives of AIC do not provide tax or legal advice. Please consult your tax advisor or attorney regarding your situation.